They found me standing on the cliff at dawn, staring at the empty horizon where 5 ships should have been. The wind cut through my salt-crusted tunic like a blade. My hands were raw from rope burns. My face was crusted with dried blood and seawater. Behind me, the longhouse doors burst open. Warriors poured out, led by Jarl Harald himself. His face was twisted with rage and grief. "Where are they?" Harald's voice cracked across the morning air. "Where are my ships, Bjorn? Where are my 50 warriors? Where is my gold?" I turned slowly. My legs were unsteady from 3 days at sea. Gone. The storm took them. I tried to keep the fleet together, but the winds scattered us. I searched for 2 days, found nothing but wreckage. Harald's right hand, Steinar, stepped forward. His face showed perfect concern, perfect shock. "Scattered? 5 ships don't just vanish, Bjorn. Not with an experienced captain leading them. Not unless someone made a catastrophic mistake, or unless someone wanted them to disappear." The accusation hung in the air like smoke. I looked at Steinar, at his clean clothes, his dry boots, his well-rested face. He hadn't been on those ships, hadn't fought that storm, hadn't watched good men disappear into black water while lightning turned the world white. "Are you calling me a murderer?" I asked quietly. "I'm saying 50 warriors are dead," Steinar replied. His voice was calm, reasonable, deadly. "And you're the only captain who came back. That's very convenient, especially when those ships were carrying the summer raid gold. 300 pounds of silver, enough to make any man rich beyond his dreams. If you believe the truth matters more than convenience, hit that subscribe button now. This story gets darker before the light breaks through. My name is Bjorn. I've been a Viking ship captain for 20 winters. I've sailed from Ireland to the Baltic. I've navigated storms that would make younger men weep. I've brought my crews home through fog, ice, and enemy waters. In 20 years, I'd never lost a ship. Never lost a man to anything but honest battle or old age. Until 3 days ago. Until the storm that shouldn't have happened. Until 5 ships and 50 warriors vanished like they'd never existed. It started with a celebration. The summer raids had been profitable. We'd hit 3 Saxon monasteries and 2 Frankish trading posts. Minimal resistance, maximum plunder. 300 pounds of silver divided among 6 ships, enough to make every warrior wealthy. Enough to buy land, livestock, and comfort for their families through the coming winter. Jarl Harald held a feast the night before we sailed home. The mead hall was packed. Warriors sang and boasted. The smell of roasted pork mixed with wood smoke and spilled ale. I sat at the captain's table with the other ship leaders. 5 good men I'd sailed with for years. Thorvald, captain of the Sea-Wolf. A giant of a man with a laugh that could shake the rafters. Eric, the Red, captain of the Storm Chaser. Quiet, deadly, the best navigator I'd ever known. Orm, captain of the Wave Dancer. Young, but skilled, respected by men twice his age. Sigurd, captain of the Raven's Wing. My oldest friend. We'd started as oarsmen together 20 winters ago. And then there was me, captain of the North Wind, the flagship, the ship that would lead the fleet home. Steinar approached our table around midnight. He was Harald's advisor, his right hand, the man who planned raids and negotiated treaties. He didn't sail, he didn't fight. But he had the Jarl's ear, and that made him powerful. "A toast," Steinar announced, raising his drinking horn. "To the captains who brought us glory, to the warriors who filled our coffers, to the safe journey home tomorrow." We raised our horns, drank deep. The mead was sweet, thick, unusually strong. I remember thinking it tasted different, slightly bitter underneath the honey, but I was tired, drunk. I didn't think much of it. "The weather looks clear," Steinar continued. "The wind is favorable. You should make excellent time. 2 days home if the gods smile on you." "What route are we taking?" Sigurd asked. He was always the careful one, the planner. I pulled out the map we'd been given. It showed the standard route home, hugging the coast, staying in sight of land. Safe, predictable. The route we'd taken 100 times before. "Coastal run," I confirmed. "We'll stay together. Keep visual contact. If anyone has trouble, we signal and assist. Standard fleet procedure." Steinar nodded. "Smart. Safe. Harald wants that silver home intact. No heroics. No risks. Just get our gold back to the settlement where it belongs." We finished our mead, stumbled to our sleeping quarters. I collapsed into my furs without even removing my boots. Sleep came fast and heavy. Unnaturally heavy, like being pulled underwater. I woke before dawn with a pounding headache, the kind that comes from too much drink and not enough water. But something felt wrong. The light coming through the tent was too bright, the sounds of the camp too active. I stumbled outside. The sun was already high, mid-morning at least. How had I slept so long? The other captains were emerging from their tents too, all of us looking confused, disoriented. "Did you sleep through the dawn bell?" Thorvald asked, rubbing his eyes. "I didn't even hear it," Eric muttered. We'd been drugged. I realized it later. That bitter taste in the mead. Something to make us sleep deep and long. To keep us from checking the morning weather. From making our own decisions about when to sail. By the time we reached the ships, our crews were already loading. Warriors hauling supplies. The silver already secured in the cargo holds. Everything ready to depart. "Who gave the order to load?" I demanded. "Steinar," one of my crew said. "He said you captains approved it last night. Said we needed an early start to catch the favorable winds." I looked at the sky. The clouds were moving fast, too fast. The wind had shifted overnight. It was coming from the north now, pushing us away from the coast, out to open water. "We should wait," I told Sigurd. "This weather doesn't feel right. The wind is wrong."
"Steinar said Harald wants us to leave today," Sigurd replied. "The Jarl is anxious to get his gold home. You know how he gets."
I looked toward the Jarl's tent. Harald was standing outside talking to Steinar. They were too far away to hear, but I saw Steinar gesture toward the ships, saw Harald nod, saw Steinar smile. Something in my gut twisted, a warning I couldn't name. But I was a captain. I followed orders, and the order was clear. Sail today. Bring the silver home. We launched at noon. 6 ships in formation, my flagship in the lead, the others following in a loose V pattern. The wind was strong, too strong. It pushed us farther from shore than I liked. Within 2 hours, the coastline was a thin gray line on the horizon. That's when the storm hit. Comment below if you've ever ignored your instincts and regretted it. Let me know you're still listening. It came from nowhere. One moment, clear skies and strong wind. The next, black clouds boiling up from the north like smoke from a burning world. The temperature dropped so fast I could see my breath. The waves went from gentle swells to 10-foot walls of green water in minutes. "Lower the sail!" I screamed over the rising wind. "Secure the cargo! All hands on oars!" My crew moved fast. They were experienced. They'd weathered storms before. But this was different. This was violent, angry, like the gods themselves had decided to swallow us whole. The rain hit like arrows, horizontal sheets of freezing water that stung exposed skin. Lightning split the sky, turning everything white for blinding seconds. Thunder boomed so loud it felt like the world was cracking apart. I grabbed the steering oar, lashing myself to it with a rope so I wouldn't be swept overboard. Through the chaos, I could barely see the other ships.
just dark shapes appearing and disappearing in the troughs between waves. "Stay together!" I roared, but my voice was nothing against the storm. "Keep visual contact!" For 3 hours we fought. Waves crashed over the bow. Men clung to oars and railings. Water filled the bottom of the ship faster than we could bail it out. My arms burned from holding the steering oar steady. My hands bled where the rope cut into flesh. Then, in a moment of relative calm between wave sets, I looked for the other ships, counted them through the rain and spray. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 ships should have been visible. Only 4 remained. Someone was already gone. The storm lasted until nightfall. By the time it finally broke, we were far out to sea. No land visible, no stars to navigate by. Just endless dark water and the sound of exhausted men breathing. I counted ships again in the dim moonlight. 1, 2, 3. 3 ships, including mine.
3 out of 6 had survived. Half the fleet was gone, and with them 25 warriors and half the silver we'd raided. We limped home over the next 2 days, bailing water, repairing torn sails, burying 2 men who'd been swept overboard. When we finally reached our settlement, only 3 ships pulled into harbor. The families were waiting on the docks. Wives, children, parents. They counted ships, counted faces. The screaming started when they realized who wasn't coming back. Sigurd was gone. Thorvald, Eric, Orm. 25 good warriors, 200 pounds of silver, all vanished into the storm that shouldn't have happened. And I was the captain who'd led them there. The captain who'd survived when they didn't. The captain who brought back only half of what we'd left with. Harald's face when he saw the 3 ships told me everything. This wasn't relief that anyone survived. This was rage that so much was lost. Steinar's face told me more. Behind Harald's shoulder, Steinar looked at me with something that wasn't quite surprise, something that looked almost like satisfaction. That's when I knew. The drugged mead, the morning delay, the changed wind, the storm that hit exactly when we'd be farthest from shore. None of it was accident. Someone had wanted those ships to disappear, and that someone was standing right behind the Jarl, looking at me like I was the perfect scapegoat for a crime I was only beginning to understand. The accusations started within hours. I was still standing on the dock, soaked and exhausted, when Harald's guards surrounded me. They didn't ask questions. They didn't wait for explanations. They just grabbed my arms and dragged me toward the longhouse. "You lost half my fleet," Harald said. His voice was low, dangerous. We stood in the great hall, empty except for Steinar and 2 guards. "You lost 25 warriors. You lost 200 pounds of silver. Explain." The storm came out of nowhere. We couldn't... Storms don't just appear, Bjorn. Not like that. Not that fast. Not in summer. Harald circled me like a wolf. "You've sailed those waters 100 times. You know the weather patterns. You know when to stay close to shore. Yet somehow you led 6 ships into open water right before the worst storm in years. We were following the route, the approved route. The coastal route," Steinar interjected smoothly, "which keeps ships within sight of land. Yet witnesses saw your fleet miles offshore. Why were you so far out, Bjorn?" I looked at Steinar. His face showed concern, but his eyes were cold, calculating. "The wind pushed us out. It shifted overnight." "Or you steered out deliberately," Steinar suggested. "Perhaps you made an agreement with someone. Pirates, Saxons, someone who wanted that silver. Someone who paid you to lead the fleet into an ambush disguised as a storm." "That's insane." "Is it? You're the only captain who survived. Your ship came back, the others didn't. And you expect us to believe that's just unfortunate luck?" Steinar pulled out a small leather pouch.
He opened it. Gold coins spilled onto the table. "We searched your quarters, found this hidden under your sleeping furs. Saxon gold, fresh minted. How did you get Saxon coins, Bjorn? What were you paid to do?" My blood went cold. "Those aren't mine. I've never seen them before." "Of course not," Harald said bitterly. "Just like the storm wasn't your fault. Just like leading the fleet offshore wasn't intentional. You're innocent of everything, despite all evidence pointing to your guilt." Would you believe a sole survivor who claims innocence? Comment what you think really happened. They threw me in the holding cell beneath the longhouse, the same cell where prisoners waited for judgment, the same cell I'd guarded as a young warrior 20 years ago. Now I was the prisoner, accused of murdering my own men, of betraying my Jarl, of selling out my brothers for enemy gold. The cell was dark, cold. Water dripped somewhere in the stone walls. My wrists were chained to an iron ring bolted into the floor, not tight enough to hurt, just tight enough to remind me I was trapped. I sat in the darkness and replayed everything. The drugged mead that made us sleep late, the changed wind, the storm that hit exactly when we were farthest from shore, the Saxon gold planted in my quarters. Someone had planned this carefully. Someone wanted those ships gone and needed
a scapegoat. Steinar. It had to be Steinar. But why? What did he gain from 5 ships sinking, from 25 warriors dying, from 200 pounds of silver disappearing into the sea? Unless the silver hadn't disappeared, unless it never sank at all. Footsteps approached. Torchlight flickered through the bars. The cell door opened. A young warrior entered. Leif, one of my crew. He'd sailed with me for 3 years. Good man, loyal. "Captain," he whispered, "I brought water and bread." "You'll get in trouble for helping me." "I don't care. I was on that ship. I know what happened. That storm was unnatural. It came too fast, too focused. And you kept us alive when any other captain would have lost the whole crew." I drank the water greedily. "Does anyone else believe me?" Leif hesitated. "Some, the ones who sailed with you. But most people are listening to Steinar. He's been talking to the families of the lost warriors, telling them you were reckless, that you ignored weather warnings, that you were drunk when we launched. He's building a case against you, Captain, and it's working. He planted those Saxon coins in my quarters. I know. I helped load your belongings before we sailed. There were no coins then. Someone put them there while we were at sea. Steinar wants me blamed for this, but I can't figure out why. What does he gain?" Leif leaned closer. "I've been asking questions, quietly, about Steinar's finances, about where his money comes from. He lives well, Captain. Too well for an advisor's salary. Big house, expensive furs, gold rings. Where does a man who doesn't raid get that kind of wealth?" "Harald pays him well." "Not that well. I talked to the Jarl's steward. Steinar's official payment is modest, yet he spends like a king. He's getting money from somewhere, a lot of money, regularly." I sat up straighter despite the chains. "You think he's been stealing from the Jarl?" "I think he found a way to make himself very rich, and I think those 5 ships, with all that silver, were too tempting to pass up. If the ships sink, the silver disappears. No one questions it. It's just a tragic storm, bad luck. But if the ships didn't really sink, if someone salvaged them, took the silver, made it look like they went down in the storm, then everyone assumes the treasure is lost at sea forever." The pieces were falling into place. Steinar needed those ships to disappear, but he also needed someone to blame. If people thought it was just bad weather, they might search for wreckage, might find evidence. But if there's a guilty captain, someone who led them astray, then it's not a mystery. It's just betrayal. Exactly. You're the perfect scapegoat, Captain. Experienced enough that people believe you could navigate into danger. Trusted enough that your betrayal feels personal. And the sole survivor,
which makes you suspicious no matter what the truth is. I grabbed Leif's arm through the bars. I need you to find
Proof. Search for the ships. They can't be far. Storm damage looks different than deliberate sinking. If those vessels were scuttled, there will be signs. Smashed hulls, cut rigging. Evidence they were attacked, not wrecked. Where should I look? North. The storm pushed us north before turning east. If someone salvaged those ships, they'd need a hidden cove, somewhere sheltered. Somewhere close enough to our route, but far enough from settlements that no one would stumble across them. Leif nodded.
There's a place, 2 days north, hidden inlet. Pirates used it years ago before Harald drove them out. Deep water, protected, perfect for hiding ships.
Check there first. And Leif, be careful. If Steinar is behind this, he's already killed 25 men. He won't hesitate to kill one more if you get too close to the truth.
Leif squeezed my shoulder. I'll find them, Captain. I'll prove you're innocent. Just stay alive until I get back. The door closed. The lock clicked. I was alone again in the darkness. But this time, I had hope.
4 days passed in that cell. 4 days of darkness and cold stone and the constant drip of water. They brought me stale bread and water twice a day, nothing else. Harald came once, stood outside the bars, stared at me like I was a stranger. Sigurd was my friend too, he said quietly. We grew up together, fought our first battle together, and you led him to his death, Bjorn. For what? Saxon gold? Was our silver not enough for you? I didn't kill him. I didn't kill any of them. Then who did? The gods? Bad luck? Harald's voice cracked. 25 families are mourning. 25 wives are widows. 50 children have no fathers. Someone is responsible, and you're the only one left. He walked away. I heard his footsteps echo down the corridor, heard the outer door slam. I was losing him, losing everyone. The longer I sat in this cell, the more people believed Steinar's lies. On the 5th morning, the cell door burst open. Not guards, Leif. His face was flushed, excited. He was soaking wet, covered in mud and seaweed. Behind him stood another man, thin, battered. His clothes were torn rags. His face was covered in bruises and cuts.
Captain,
Leif gasped. I found them, the ships, and I found him. I stared at the second man. Something about his eyes was familiar. Then I realized. Ivar? Ivar from the Storm Chaser? The man nodded. His voice was hoarse, barely above a whisper. Captain Bjorn. I thought I was the only one left. I thought everyone else was dead. My hands were shaking as Leif unlocked my chains. What happened? Where have you been? Hidden, surviving, afraid to come back because of what I saw. Ivar collapsed onto the bench. His legs couldn't hold him. The storm didn't sink us, Captain. We were murdered. Would you trust the testimony of one traumatized survivor? Tell me in the comments. Leif pulled out a water skin. Ivar drank deeply. Then he started talking. His words came fast, desperate, like he'd been holding them in for days and they were finally bursting free. The storm hit us hard, scattered the fleet. We lost sight of your ship within an hour. Captain Eric kept us together, kept us fighting. We were managing, taking on water but bailing fast. We could have survived. Then what happened? Another ship appeared, through the rain and spray. At first, we thought it was one of ours, coming to help. But as it got closer, I saw it was different, smaller, faster, a raiding ship, and it was heading straight for us. My blood went cold. Pirates? Worse, they flew no banner, showed no colors. They rammed us amidships, smashed through our hull. We were already weakened by the storm.
The impact broke the keel. We started sinking immediately. Did you fight? We tried, but they had archers. They shot anyone who tried to board them or swim away. Eric went down with arrows in his back. Most of the crew drowned in minutes. I only survived because I went under, dove deep, and swam away from the ships. When
I surfaced, I was alone. Both vessels were gone, sunk or sailed away, just wreckage floating on black water.
How did you survive?
Found a piece of broken hull, clung to it for hours, eventually washed up on a rocky beach, hid in the caves, too afraid to move, too afraid they'd come back. Ivar's hands were shaking. I saw him, Captain, on the attacking ship, just for a moment. Lightning lit up the deck. I saw his face clearly. Who? Steinar, Harald's advisor. He was standing on the raiding ship, watching us sink, watching us die. He wasn't a prisoner, he was commanding them. The cell was silent except for the sound of water dripping. Leif and I exchanged looks. We'd suspected, but hearing confirmation was different. Steinar hadn't just arranged an accident. He'd actively murdered 25 warriors. Did anyone else see him? I asked. I don't know. I was the only one from my ship who survived. But there were 5 ships attacked. If others made it... They didn't, Leif said quietly. I found the wrecks. All 5 of them. Exactly where you said, Captain, in the hidden inlet. The hulls weren't storm damaged. They were deliberately smashed. Holes punched through from the outside. Masts cut, rigging sliced, and the cargo holds were empty. Every pound of silver gone. Steinar salvaged it, I said. He attacked during the storm so the damage would look natural, sank the ships, killed the crews, took the silver, then hid the wrecks in a place no one would think to search. There's more. Leif pulled something from his pack, a piece of carved wood, a ship's nameplate. This is from the Wave Dancer, Orm's ship. I found it nailed to a tree near the inlet, like a trophy, like someone was marking their kills. We need to get this to Harald, now. All of it, the wrecks, Ivar's testimony, the evidence that those ships were attacked, not wrecked. Steinar won't let us reach the Jarl, Leif said. He's been controlling who sees Harald, who talks to him. If we try to present this evidence publicly, Steinar will claim we fabricated it, that we're desperate conspirators trying to save a guilty captain. Then we don't go public, not yet. I stood up. My legs were weak from days of sitting, but adrenaline gave me strength. We need more proof, something Steinar can't deny, something that connects him directly to the attacks. Like what? Leif asked. The silver. 200 pounds of silver doesn't just vanish. Steinar has to store it somewhere, move it somewhere, sell it somewhere. Silver that pure, that quantity, there will be records, witnesses, people who saw it being transported. Ivar lifted his head. There was a boat, small fishing vessel. It left the inlet the morning after the attacks. I saw it from my hiding spot in the caves, heading south, low in the water, like it was carrying something heavy. South toward Steinar's estate, Leif said. He has a private dock, storage buildings, guards to keep people away. If he's hiding the silver, that's where it would be. I looked at both men. This is dangerous. If we're caught searching Steinar's property, he can claim we're thieves, have us executed for trespassing. But if we don't find proof, I hang anyway, and Steinar gets away with murdering 25 warriors for profit. I'm with you, Captain, Leif said immediately. Ivar stood up. His legs shook, but he forced them steady. They killed my friends, my brothers. I want justice, whatever it takes. We left the cell quietly. The guard was sleeping. Another thing Steinar probably arranged. Keep the guard lazy, make it easy for the guilty captain to attempt escape. When I was caught outside the settlement, it would just be more proof of my guilt. But we weren't escaping. We were hunting, and our prey had no idea we were coming. Steinar's estate sat on a hill overlooking the fjord. A large timber hall with carved dragon heads on the roof peaks. Storage buildings clustered around it like chicks around a hen. Guards patrolled the perimeter. 2 at the main gate, 2 more walking the fence line. More security than most jarls kept for their own homes. We approached through the forest as dawn broke. The 3 of us moved silently between trees. Leif led. He'd hunted these woods as a boy, knew every path and deer trail. We stopped at the tree line, 50 yards from the nearest storage building. 4 guards visible, I whispered. Probably more inside. Why does an advisor need this much security? Ivar asked. What's he protecting? Stolen silver, Leif said. Has to be. No other reason for this level of protection. We watched the guard patrol patterns. The 2 at the gate stayed put. The perimeter guards walked opposite directions, crossing paths at the corners. They were disciplined, professional. Not local farmers hired for coin. These were warriors. We need a distraction, I said. Something to pull the guards away from the storage buildings. Leif smiled. I have an idea. He pulled out a small clay jar from his pack. Oil. He'd brought lamp oil. Fire draws attention, especially when it's threatening valuable property. You're going to burn his hall? Just threaten to. A small fire on the roof, easy to see, easy to panic about. Guards will rush to put it out. We slip in while they're distracted. It was risky, but we were out of safe options. Ivar circled wide through the trees. His job was simple. Get to the main gate. When the fire started, scream for help. Add to the chaos. Make sure everyone was looking at the burning building and not at us. Leif and I crept closer. The perimeter guard passed. We counted to 30. Slipped across open ground to the storage building furthest from the hall. The door was locked. Heavy iron padlock. Leif pulled out a pry bar. Wedged it under the lock mounting. Pulled hard. The wood splintered. The lock tore free with a crack that sounded impossibly loud in the morning quiet. We froze. Listened. No shouts. No running footsteps. The guards hadn't heard. We slipped inside and pulled the door closed behind us. The storage building was dark, smelled of salt and fish. My eyes adjusted slowly. Shapes emerged from the darkness. Barrels, crates, fishing nets. Normal storage for a coastal estate, nothing suspicious. Check everything, I whispered. We moved through the building systematically, opened every crate, every barrel, found dried fish, salt, rope, tools. Nothing that looked like stolen silver. My heart sank. Maybe we were wrong. Maybe Steinar had hidden it somewhere else, somewhere we'd never find. Then Leif kicked a crate near the back wall. It made a different sound. Not the hollow thump of an empty box. A solid thunk, like kicking stone. Would you keep searching or give up when the evidence seems hidden? Tell me.
What do you do? We pried the crate open. Inside was sand. Just sand. But underneath, we felt something hard. We dug through the sand with our hands. Our fingers hit metal. Cold. Smooth. We pulled out an ingot. Silver. Stamped with the mark of a Frankish monastery. One of the places we'd raided.
It's here, Leif breathed. The stolen silver is here.
We dug faster, found more ingots, dozens of them, all marked with various raid stamps, Saxon monasteries, Frankish trading posts. This wasn't just the silver from our lost ships. This was years of stolen plunder. Steinar's been doing this for a long time, I said, skimming from raids, hiding silver before it reaches Harald's treasury. The 5 ships were just his biggest score. We need to move this, get it back to the settlement, show Harald what his trusted advisor has been stealing. It's too heavy. 200 pounds at least. We can't carry it. I looked around the storage building, but we can mark it, make it impossible for Steinar to move it without being seen. I pulled out my knife, carved my captain's mark into the side of the crate. Deep cuts, unmistakable. Then I carved Harald's name. If anyone found this silver, they'd know exactly who it belonged to and who had reported it. That's when we heard the shouts. Outside, distant but growing louder. Leif's distraction had worked too well. The roof fire must have caught faster than planned. Guards were running, screaming, chaos erupting across the estate. We needed to leave, now. Before someone thought to check the storage buildings, we slipped out the broken door, stayed low, moved toward the tree line. "Stop!" a voice behind us, sharp, commanding. "Stop or I'll put an arrow through your back!" We froze, turned slowly. A guard stood 20 feet away, bow drawn, arrow knocked. His eyes were wide, surprised to find intruders, but his hands were steady. "You're the escaped prisoner," he said, recognizing me. "Bjorn, the captain who murdered his crew. What are you doing here?" "Finding evidence," I said calmly. "Evidence that proves I'm innocent. Evidence that proves Steinar is the real murderer." "Steinar? That's insane. He's Harald's most trusted—" "Check the storage building," I interrupted. "Behind us, there's a crate filled with silver, marked with my seal and Harald's name. That silver came from the ships that supposedly sank. Ships Steinar attacked and looted. He's been stealing from the Jarl for years." The guard hesitated. His bow didn't waver, but doubt flickered across his face. "You're lying. Trying to escape. Trying to frame an innocent man." "Then shoot me," I said. "Put that arrow through my heart. But first, look in that building. Just look. If I'm lying, I'm dead anyway. If I'm telling the truth, you just helped expose a traitor." The guard's eyes flicked toward the storage building, back to me. He was considering it, weighing his options. A good man caught between orders and conscience. "Please," Ivar stepped forward. His voice was raw. "I survived the attack. I saw Steinar on the raiding ship. He watched us die. 25 warriors murdered for silver. If you don't let us prove it, he wins. He gets away with mass murder." The guard lowered his bow slowly. "Show me. Show me this silver. If you're lying, I'll kill you myself. But if you're telling the truth..." He trailed off. The implications were too big, too dangerous. We led him to the storage building, showed him the crate, the hidden silver, the raid stamps, the marks I'd carved. His face went pale as he realized what he was seeing. "Gods," he whispered. "How long has he been doing this?" "Years," Leif said. "And he just killed 25 men to hide it." "We need to tell Harald, now, before Steinar realizes what we found." The guard nodded. "I'll escort you. Make sure you reach the Jarl. If Steinar sees you coming, he'll have you killed before you can speak." We moved fast. The estate was still chaos. The roof fire had spread. Warriors were forming bucket lines. Steinar himself stood in the courtyard, shouting orders. His face was soot-stained, furious. Then he saw us, saw me walking free with his guard. His expression changed, from anger to fear to cold calculation. He knew. He knew we'd found something, and now he had to decide whether to let us reach Harald or kill us in the open and claim we attacked first. His hand dropped to his sword. Steinar's hand was on his sword when Harald emerged from the burning hall. The Jarl's face was black with soot. His eyes were red from smoke. He saw me immediately, saw Steinar reaching for his weapon, saw the guard standing protectively beside me instead of dragging me back to the cell.
What is this? Harald demanded. His voice cut through the chaos like an axe through wood. Bjorn, you're supposed to be imprisoned. And you, he turned to the guard. Why are you not restraining him? My Jarl, the guard said quickly. You need to see something. In the storage building. Evidence that changes everything. Steinar stepped forward, his hand still on his sword. They broke into my estate, started a fire. This is clearly an escape attempt. They're desperate criminals trying to... Then why is your guard protecting them instead of killing them? Harald interrupted. His eyes narrowed. What evidence? Silver, I said. 200 pounds of silver from the lost ships, hidden in Steinar's storage building, buried under sand, marked with Frankish and Saxon raid stamps. The silver that supposedly sank in the storm is here, on Steinar's estate. The courtyard went silent. Warriors who'd been fighting the fire stopped, turned, listened. Harald's face went very still, very cold. That's insane, Steinar said. His voice was smooth, but I heard the edge beneath it. Why would I have silver from sunken ships? Bjorn is fabricating evidence, planting false proof to save himself. Then explain why it's buried in your storage building, the guard said. Hidden under sand, in a locked building guarded by warriors. Explain why you need this much security for an advisor's estate. I'm a wealthy man. I have valuable goods. Of course I employ guards. Show me, Harald commanded. Show me this silver, now. We walked to the storage building, the broken door, the splintered lock. Inside, Harald knelt beside the open crate, pulled out ingot after ingot. His hands were shaking, not from weakness, from rage. These are our raid stamps, he said quietly, dangerously. From monasteries we hit, trading posts we looted. This is Viking plunder. This is our silver. He looked up at Steinar. Why is it in your storage building instead of my treasury? I can explain. And there's more. Ivar stepped forward. His voice was stronger now, steadier. I survived the storm chaser. I saw what happened. We weren't sunk by the storm. We were attacked, rammed by a raiding ship, shot by archers, murdered deliberately. And I saw him. He pointed at Steinar. Standing on the attacking ship, commanding them, watching us die. Steinar's face went white. He's lying. He's a traumatized survivor making up stories. The storm... I found the wrecks, Leif interrupted. All 5 ships, in the hidden inlet. The damage wasn't from weather. Hulls were deliberately smashed, masts cut, rigging sliced. They were attacked, scuttled. And the cargo holds were empty because the
silver was already here. Harald stood up slowly. His face was carved from stone. How long, Steinar? How long have you been stealing from me, from my warriors, from the families who depended on that silver? I haven't stolen anything. This is a conspiracy. They're all working together to frame me because you murdered 25 warriors, I said. Because you arranged the drugged mead, the delayed launch, the changed route. You needed us offshore when the storm hit, needed us vulnerable, so your raiders could attack and make it look like a natural disaster. You have no proof of that. I have the Saxon gold you planted in my quarters, I said. The coins that were supposedly payment for my betrayal. But they weren't payment. They were props. Evidence you created to frame me, because you needed someone to blame. If people thought the ship sank naturally, they might search for wreckage. But if there was a guilty captain, a traitor, then no one would question the story. Harald's jaw clenched. 25 warriors. Sigurd, Thorvald, Eric, Orm. Good men. My friends. You killed them for silver? For profit? Steinar's mask finally cracked. The smooth advisor, the trusted counselor, all of it fell away. What remained was desperation.
You don't understand. I've served you for 15 years, planned your raids, negotiated your treaties, built your wealth. And what did I get? A modest salary, a small house, while warriors who risk nothing strategic get rich on plunder. I deserved more. I earned more.
So you stole it, Harald said. And when 5 ships with 200 pounds of silver was too tempting to pass up, you murdered 25 men to take it.
They were warriors. They knew the risks. Death is part of the life they chose.
Death in battle is part of our life, not death by betrayal, not death arranged by the man we trusted to keep us safe.
Harald's hand went to his sword. You've dishonored everything we stand for. You've murdered brothers. You've stolen from families. You've endangered this entire settlement by creating instability. Steinar drew his sword. The blade rang as it cleared the scabbard. I won't hang for doing what you were too weak to do, for taking what I deserved. He lunged at Harald, fast, desperate, the blade aimed at the Jarl's throat. But Harald was faster. He sidestepped, drew his own sword. The blades met with a crash that echoed across the courtyard. They fought for less than a minute. Steinar was skilled, but Harald was a warrior, born, trained, tested in 100 battles. He blocked, parried, twisted. His blade found Steinar's chest, pushed through, emerged from the back. Steinar gasped, dropped his sword, looked down at the blade in his chest with surprise, as if he couldn't believe this was how it ended. Harald pulled the sword free. Steinar collapsed, blood pooled beneath him. For Sigurd, Harald said quietly. For Thorvald. For Eric. For all 25 warriors you murdered.
Steinar's eyes glazed, his breathing stopped. The courtyard was silent except for the crackling of the dying roof fire. Harald turned to me. Bjorn, I failed you. I believed lies over truth. I accused an innocent captain of crimes committed by the man I trusted most. I owe you an apology. I owe you justice. You gave me justice, I said. You believed the evidence when it mattered. The settlement owes you more. Your name will be cleared, your honor restored, and you'll be compensated. The silver Steinar stole belongs to the families of the lost warriors, but his estate, his property, that's yours, for exposing the traitor, for saving us from years more of theft and betrayal. 3 days later, we held a funeral for the lost warriors, burned ships in their honor, sang their names. The families finally had closure, not just grief, but truth. Their men hadn't died from bad luck or incompetent leadership. They died as warriors, fighting an enemy, betrayed but not broken. Ivar stood beside me at the ceremony. His strength was returning. What will you do now, Captain? Sail, I said. It's what I do, what I've always done. But I'll be more careful about who plans the routes, who has access to the mead, who stands to profit from disaster. Will you take me? On your crew? I have no ship now, no captain, but I know the sea. You survived the impossible. You brought truth when everyone believed lies. Of course I'll take you. If you believe truth always surfaces, even when buried under lies and silver, hit that subscribe button now. Tell me in the comments, would you trust your instincts when everyone calls you paranoid? In the world of Vikings, loyalty means nothing without honesty. Wealth means nothing without honor. And every tale of betrayal ends with truth and blood. 25 warriors were avenged. A traitor was exposed. And I learned that sometimes the most dangerous enemy isn't the one across the shield wall. It's the one standing behind you, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Skål, warriors. Until the next saga.